If people are dieting now more than ever before, then why are nearly 1 in 3 American adults overweight? Dr. Gundry, who's helped thousands lose weight and feel younger and healthier than ever, says most people are not getting enough fat-burning MCTs from their food. MCTs are a special kind of compound that instead of turning into fat when you consume it, turns into ketones, which is a chemical that breaks down the excess fat in your body. So, by getting more MCTs in your diet, you essentially flip a switch that puts your body in caloric bypass mode, which can flush out excess fat and calories. And he's created an easy way for you to activate caloric bypass right at home. It's called MCT Wellness. This powerful blend of fat-flushing MCT powders and antioxidant-rich polyphenols is designed to help you unlock your body's fat-burning, energy-producing potential. What's even better is that it's a delicious drink. I love how incredible it tastes. All you do is add a scoop to water, enjoy, and watch as you start feeling slimmer and more energized. So, if you want to experience a quick, easy, and effective way to melt pounds fast, go to GundryMD.com/energy and order right now to get up to 53% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Again, that's GUNDRYMD.com/energy.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's other Saskatchewan football podcast without the championships. I'm Joel Gasson with John Fraser as usual. I have no idea what a podcast championship would be, but nonetheless, we have plenty to get to this week. Because, there was a lot of stuff coming out of the Banjo Bowl, quite literally.
Quite literally out of all ends, all directions, yeah. There was stuff flying.
If it could come out of your ears, it probably would have for the Riders that day.
Oh, God.
So yeah, there's a lot of details, some of them quite gross, that we're going to get into about that game. But also, despite the fact that they lost by 34, and this might be the only time I'll ever say this after a team loses by 34,
yeah,
I feel pretty good about them. Strangely enough.
Right. This is the kind of weird, dumb thing that can galvanize a team. And before Winnipeg really pulled ahead, like...
Yeah, and I mean, okay, they didn't have the ball at all in the first quarter, whatever. The second quarter, that looked like a team that could beat the Riders if they were... that could beat the Bombers if they were healthy and had a whole game like that.
Right, and that's the promising part. It was obviously going to be the second the stomach flu story broke, you knew this was going to be ugly in so many ways. And I'm not just talking about the poor people that work at IG Field that had to clean up that Riders locker room. But...
No. So yeah, of course, we're going to break all that down and talk about how the picture is shifting pretty quickly into the CFL, as it's starting to look pretty clear that the 6 playoff teams are going to be pretty cemented here pretty quick, I think.
Yes.
But before we get to all that,
you're going to make me start here, right?
Yeah, the fine co-host of this program.
Thank you.
Had a little bit of a moment on the weekend. One that I think most listeners of this podcast and the other co-host of this podcast would all approve of, because sports are supposed to be fun and we like to have fun, and nothing was actually intentionally meant by what you said over the PA system at the Saskatoon Hilltops Regina Thunder game on the weekend.
So I think this might be the single dumbest thing I've ever seen anybody get pissed off for in my life. And yeah, I'm a little
high bar
biased
these days.
You know what? This is so dumb. Like you're gonna listen to this, and I ran into Jared, one of our listeners. I saw him at a fun little fair a school had come on, and I'm like, dude, I gotta tell you this story. I told my boss this story, and everybody's like, that is the single dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I've been doing when I got the gig as Hilltop's PA guy, I asked him, like, do you want me to call this like I'm a boring ass hockey announcer, or can I have some fun? Like within reason. I'm not going to taunt kids. I'm not going to mock injuries. But I'm going to have some fun. So the first couple games, I was doing things like very boring intros for the visiting Edmonton Huskies, the visiting Winnipeg Rifles, and, you know, getting names so comically over the top wrong that it's clear that that's what I was doing. So I kicked it up a notch. This Saturday, the Thunder are in town to play the Hilltops, and hey, that's a great rivalry. Like, This is basically like the Saturday night Hilltops Thunder games are like the Labor Day Classic and Banjo Bowl.
Well, it's almost like Alabama, Georgia, because you actually have, you know, competent competition for each other.
Right, right. That's exactly it. Like you have, you know, the PFC has so many ebbs and flows, but you always know that game is going to be between two of the best teams out there. And Regina brings up a bunch of fans, and lots of Saskatoon people come out in droves, and it's just a great night. Like, I've been part of it as a play-by-play guy, as a fan, and now as a PA guy. So there's some hate there. So I decide during player intro, so for some context, the intro for the Hilltops is led by head coach Tom Sargent. It's your 22-time Canadian Bowl champion Saskatoon Hilltops. So Regina's ready to go, and I get the walkie-talkie. Okay, yeah, good to go. So I say, and now please welcome the other team from Saskatchewan without all the Canadian Bowl titles, the Regina Thunder. That's all I said. And then I went on to comically mispronounce some names and do the kind of shtick I do. Well, immediately, the Hilltops, and I'm very good friends with the equipment manager / social media guru, Heather. I'm getting, okay, what did you say this time? Kind of as a joke, right?
Which is, I mean, a fair thing to ask you sometimes.
Yeah, I've got some spicy takes, and I'm a little outspoken from time to time, so I'm like, that's all I said. And we all kind of having a laugh about it. Well, I've got people coming into my DMs. I've got people tweeting at the Hilltops. I've got a disgraced former CKRM employee trying to come at me. Those in glass houses, Joel. That's all I'm going to say about that one. So I have all these people coming at me to the point that parents are flagging down members of the Hilltops board to complain about it. So naturally, second half, backed off a little, still did the unenthusiastic shtick, you know, still, you know, obviously cheering up our team, and kept to those things. So what I find most annoying is in the fallout, as I'm leaving SMF Field, I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe Regina has a PA guy that's just been there forever. They just do games straight up like it's the Western Hockey League. Like, maybe they weren't expecting that. Okay, maybe that's it. Oh no, Joel Gasson. I find out they're nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. Their PA guy leads the stadium in incomplete chance when somebody misses a pass. So instead, I spend my night dealing with burner accounts and people who think that Miracle Whip is spicy. All over having some fun, and it's just like, and I hate to sound like certain talk show hosts right now in this province, but are we also goddamn sensitive that we can't have a laugh at that? And the funniest thing is, and I won't use the term again, because that got me in some hot water last time, but it's not our generation. Our generation can laugh. The people that said the phones would rot our brains. So I'm glad I could get it off my chest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to apologize.
Or should
Had
you?
I disrespected someone, I would have.
All you did was state fact in a comical way. And I say this as a guy in Regina. Now, granted, I don't really have any sort of natural connections to the Thunder, so maybe I'm not the right person to be saying this, but we know some other people who are connected with the Thunder that aren't as worked up about this.
And the funny thing is those people connected with the Thunder are still hearing it. Like, we're 2 days later. Do you really have nothing else to worry about than a PA announcer having some fun on the intro? And again, had I said they suck, had I laughed at an injury, had I led a cheer for something, had I made them chant incomplete when Regina's quarterback couldn't find a receiver for 3 quarters. Yeah, okay, you have beef. That's fair. I crossed the line. As I said to one of the many accounts that are simply a letter followed by a large series of numbers and the replacement for the egg is the profile picture. Show me something that is not correct. I have nothing but respect for the program that the Regina Thunder have built. I do. It's great. All
They
this
won,
bullshit
didn't they?
isn't coming. They did. They won in 2013.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they won
And
that
they're
game
consistently
too.
good.
Yeah.
And they won the game. You're right. They won the game in overtime. They're a consistently good organization run by good people. And it's a shame that fans associated with it can't take a joke and can't laugh at themselves. Because I can tell you, if next week when they're at Mosaic Stadium, somebody comes out and leads the cheer with, and now introducing the team that lost last week, which is probably what I would do in my shoes now.
Yep. Like if for some reason the Thunder hired you to do that game, that's what you would say. Something like that.
That's what I would say. And I can guarantee you that, okay,
Free ideas
hope,
for Regina Thunder. If you're listening, there's a free idea for you.
boom, take it. And guess what? You ain't going to hear from our organization because guess what? We all thought it was funny. I was in the booth when I dropped that line, was several members of the directors of the Hilltops and several staff members, and we all had a good chuckle. And to the Regina fans that might be listening to this that also had a good chuckle, that I'm sure would love to tell me we got the last laugh, we won, fill your boots. That's awesome.
Yep.
Right?
That's the end of the day what it's all about, right?
Exactly. And for those ones, thank you. Thanks for not being a dick. So
yeah, this is junior football, not junior hockey. Let's all take a step back.
well, that's it. Especially when your PA guy does the same shit that I do.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Happy football weekend in Saskatchewan, everyone.
And happy, oh my god, I'm glad I have liquor in the house week
Yeah.
to me.
I mean, if the Thunder really want to get on this, they really should, use that as some kind of marketing tool for this week.
Oh,
Really turn you into the biggest heel this province has ever seen to get people to come out to cheer for the Thunder against the Hilltops.
I would love that. And we all need more of that. And the funny thing is a mutual friend of both of ours is part of the Thunder board. And I hope they hear his voice and go, let's have some fun with this. Let's embrace it. Like, let's change the Twitter profile. Like, have some fun with this. But
that's what I would do if I were them. But
100%. And I know that our guy wants to do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes the worst takes are scream the loudest.
Like Johnny Manziel was going to be the MOP and win the Grey Cup for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
I was waiting. I couldn't tell if you were going to say it or I was going to see it, and I said that one loudly. That was
Very
was a
loudly.
loud Fraser take. Yeah.
Or
Like
the
I
Edmonton
say-
Elks are going to pass the Saskatchewan Roughriders and make the playoffs.
Or the Hamilton Tiger Cats are going to pass the Saskatchewan Roughriders and make the playoffs. Should I just declare Ottawa now? Is that the...
Well, they lost this past week, so they're back in the dumpster.
They had a chance. It's because I was thinking it. It's because the thought crossed my mind, and the CFL's hottest team was cooled down.
Absolutely. I guess it's safe to say the Riders are really only thinking about one thing this weekend.
Oh, boy.
Get to the bathroom in time.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, we're going to get into all that mess, figuratively and literally.
Literally.
But as usual, before we get into all that, on such a great thing to think about before we start talking about food and beverage. What is in the glass this week for the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, John?
This week, because of how angry I was, straight to the vodka. Straight to provincial vodka, mixed up with some lemon and some lime, done up in a shaker, poured over ice. I'm still trying to slide into Provincial's DMs so they can become the official spirit sponsor of the podcast. It is going nowhere. Literally nowhere. I have been left on red. So if you work for Provincial, I love your stuff. Give us some free stuff and we'll talk about it. Please.
I guess I could talk to the rep at work.
Really?
He comes in quite regularly. He does the deliveries for us, yeah.
I mean, like, literally, I'm always drinking it. I'm almost always drinking it while I'm on the... And it has my ringing endorsement several episodes ago of being almost too smooth.
Yeah. No, I know you almost have, like, an issue with it because it's so smooth that it's hard to stop drinking.
Yeah, there's at least 3 shots in what I'm drinking now, and I can't taste any of it.
For me, I guess... unintentionally, because of Winnipeg's back-to-back wins, I dipped into the Winnipeg sort of scene. Got some Red Line IPA from Torque Brewing out of Winnipeg. One of my favorites from out there. It's kind of along the lines of the Pile of Bones Red Ale. So It's got a little bit more of that hop bite to it, but has that nice maltiness from the red as well. Always quite enjoyable. Very good beer. I quite enjoy it. Torque makes really great stuff if you ever happen to see it around.
And you know what? I had never really had a lot of their stuff until I tried Frenemies.
Yeah. No, I've had the Red Line before. We got the Belgian Wit in as well recently. I've had some other stuff from them too. Their blonde is straightforward. It's pretty good. And yeah, when I've been in Winnipeg various times for like CFL week and different things, I've tried some different stuff from them there too. Very, very, very solid brewery in Winnipeg for sure.
Well, I'm gonna have to give it a try. It's nice to see. Nice to see we're starting to get some good stuff out of Winnipeg here as the years go on.
Yeah, Manitoba's a weird place for liquor. It's harder to get their stuff from outside of the province. I don't know. There's just a lot of weird different rules that go on there compared to Saskatchewan and Alberta for some reason. But hey, it is what it is. It was what it was for the Riders on the weekend.
Oh, God.
As obviously by now, y'all know the story. They got hit with something, and their tummies did not feel good, and a couple Tums were not going to fix this issue, nor was Pepto-Bismol. As it was a few hours before the game, play-by-play voice Michael Ball with the report that a number of the players had come down with some kind of stomach flu, and numbers weren't known at the time exactly how many of that kind of thing. Since then, the image has become a little more clear.
Yes.
Over 20 players total, 10 to 15 really bad. And the descriptions after the game, because, Craig Dickinson and Cody Fajardo were pretty upfront about how bad the scene was in the locker room. And as a guy who I, firmly believe that post-game the locker rooms should probably be reopened at some point here for media to talk to players.
Yeah.
I imagine Murray McCormick and any other media that would have normally tried to get into the Rider locker room that night were probably pretty happy that the locker room was close to the media.
It is apparently, and this comes from multiple sources that were in that room. It might have been one of the worst scenes you could possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
There was only a couple of toilets, and whatever hit the Riders hit the team so hard that, like, garbage cans were starting to be used, and I've heard anywhere from 10 to 20 guys needing IV fluids. Like,
it's been confirmed that the entire offensive line needed IVs just to play.
That's just remarkable. The fact that they were able to go out and play speaks to some true, like, fortitude. Like,
yeah, and like there was a weird comment to the 3 Down Nation Twitter account, and I believe JC as well, after he posted the story of Craig Dickinson and Cody Fajardo's comments after the game on Sunday. For some reason they had commented about how, the year's the lost cause, the room has given up on Craig Dickinson, he should be fired. And I think the fact that everything we've learned about this after the fact shows that this room is far from giving up, given what they went through to play that game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's even a conversation that, based on the discipline issues that I know we've had right here on this very podcast, about has Craig lost the room, lost these things. But this really strikes me, and this is, again, speaking to our sources inside that room, as something that's going to galvanize this team. Like, we've made the jokes about the 8-8 Grey Cup, or the 9-9 Grey Cup champion Saskatchewan Roughriders. Like, we've kind of said that, oh yeah, they're going to go through the East, and it just seemed like something was missing. And the way that this was talked about post game and the day after, this really seems like one of those really dumb things that brings a team together and galvanizes them. And like, how could you not? Like, if you literally watched one of your teammates poop themselves while vomiting in a garbage can, how could you not feel like super close to that guy? Right? The room has been brought together. Like, just the nightmare of all nightmares that we all dread. As they were all Professor from Captain Underpants series of books, Professor P.P. Diarrheenstein Poopy Pants.
Yeah, it was like basically that scene from Family Guy where I think Lois comes home. And like literally the entire family is puking on the floor. That's basically what the Rider locker room was like.
And add poop. Add lots of poop to that. So now it comes down to, and you don't want to point any fingers at what could have happened or who could have been patient zero, but Joel, I think there's only one reasonable explanation as to what could have caused this kind of devastation in professional athletes.
Oh, there's no question about it.
It's the lettuce.
Da-da-da. Lettuce update.
I think, okay, let's piece this together. This happened, from all accounts, when you just look at the time frame, it looks like this must have happened before they left Regina.
Yeah, I think they've all sort of said the belief was it happened sort of at a team gathering before they left, like the day, like either the day before or like when they left for Winnipeg. Yeah.
Right. So, what kind of nutritious sounding fast food would you take on a bus before a long road trip down the highway? You know, you want some carbs, you want some protein, you want a healthy amount of sodium and fiber. Now, I think it all comes down to one thing. They got the lettuce. They got Subway. They got the lettuce.
And I believe we've connected these dots before. When there was the timeout just before half, was that when someone was late because they were in the bathroom?
Yes.
Yes, and we were like, there is a Subway on the real campus.
There is.
There is.
So now, this also intrigued me because Cody Fajardo, I don't know why. Now, to explain why he seemed fine, to me, he seems like a meatball sub kind of guy. Like, does he? Because you never get lettuce on a meatball sub. That is just the textures are just
unless you're insane, yeah.
Right, the textures are completely wrong. You get your meatball, you get your cheese, maybe some spicy peppers, away you go, right?
And I mean, a meatball is kind of corn doggish,
right?
Like
exactly.
in a stretch kind of way, but it's sort of a textured exterior inside of a soft meat. So yeah,
right. And the offensive line, which were among the illest, are probably the kind of guys that go, yeah, just load it up. I'm going to eat 3 of these. So I feel like they wouldn't really care as much as to what toppings were on their sub, so they wouldn't have avoided the notorious dodgy-looking lettuce.
No, and it's the pure volume that they ate
meaning why they were the sickest.
Mm-hmm.
So you put it all together, and there's only one culprit for this Riders' loss. Subway lettuce.
Just don't get the lettuce.
Never get the lettuce. Never, ever, ever.
Nothing good has ever come from the lettuce.
No.
Makes me wonder, so then, I mean, did Keon Schaefer-Baker just get a salad then? Because he was allegedly one of the other guys that got it really bad because he was dressed but never played.
Right. But you had to put him into the lineup because he was, that seems like Schaefer Baker seems like a salad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And although you don't make friends with salad, being an elite level wide receiver, he'd probably be like a chicken protein, like salad kind of guy.
And I mean, the bowl of salad is less mess eating on a bus than a sub. Right?
Also a veteran maneuver. And Schaefer Baker, he's a Western grad?
Yeah.
No. He went to some school that smart people go to. He didn't go to Confederation College. I tell you what. He went to one of those learned people schools to play football. So, smart man probably knew bowl was best, except when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all determined that this is it. It was the Subway lettuce, and as long as they stay away from that, they might be the most chaotic Grey Cup champion of all time. Because I honestly think they're going to do it, Joel.
There is more reason to believe it this week than I thought maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe even last week. Just because we said it off the top. Yeah, they lost by 34. And usually when a team loses by 34, you're like, oof, that was rough. They must really suck.
Yes.
But for some reason, I feel very optimistic about this team after a 34-point loss. You may ask, well, Joel, why do you feel optimistic about this team after a 34-point loss? And I will say, because of a 15-minute stretch in the second quarter. Like, okay, yes, the defense was thoroughly beat up and down the field by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers all day. But as contributor and co-boss John Hodge, who was at the game, suggested in the group chat after the game, there wasn't necessarily any big breakdowns. There wasn't necessarily anything horribly off about the Rider defense. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers were just that on. They played like the
you called it.
They got Death Star.
You called it, for a guy that's never seen Star Wars in your life.
Well, I just know that college football people, talk about Alabama and now Georgia and Ohio State as they have like these Death Star games or seasons where they're just going to fucking steamroll everybody. And that's what Winnipeg did in that game. They showed up, and Alabama's like this. They showed up, they decided they were the best team in the league, and they were just going to roll. And that's what they did. And a full, healthy, good Rider team maybe hangs with that, but they probably still lose. Because there was just no stopping the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in that game. And I think in the second half, it kind of got away from them a little bit because the Riders just kind of converted to survival mode at that point. As a lot of teams just getting their ass beat do.
Right. Never mind teams getting their asses beat. Getting their asses beat while they have food poisoning or stomach flu or something, right?
All season, and here's why I'm weirdly optimistic after this.
Okay.
The second quarter, mostly. That was like the most complete quarter of the game for the Riders. Metaphorically speaking, we're used to them shitting the bed on offense.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when they were physically shitting the bed, they may have played one of their best games on offense this year.
Absolutely.
And Hodge in attendance said the same thing. Like, they looked in rhythm. They had things going. Cody Fajardo looked even better than he did the week before. He's continued to look like himself since his benching. He's running better. He's moving better. His throws were pretty good in that game. Like, everything in that quarter suggested to me that this offense is trending in the right direction. And if and we know the defense got beat, that happens. You tip your cap and move on. I don't expect it to happen again to that degree, probably ever again, because that was a ridiculous kind of thing to give up points in every drive but one.
Right.
So that's never going to happen again. I don't care. It's an aberration that won't happen again.
Well, and I think an aberration partially fueled by the fact that, so from what we've heard, out of 46 men, 25 were ill, like violently ill. We know your 6 offensive linemen were among the worst, and Keon Schaefer Baker, so that's 7. If you just do the math, and based on like what we saw, like I don't think Frankie Hickson was sick. We know Cody wasn't. Based on some of the performances we saw, like I would say like Linnaeus might have been ill. Just he didn't look like himself. Moore looked healthy. I think it's fair to say
some of them had to be on defense statistically, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, you take literally half your roster. I would even, just by running through it, I'd even dare say that a majority, minus the O-line and Schaefer-Baker, were probably on defense because you said it. There was no major breakdowns, but they just weren't.
They were just
themselves.
they just couldn't quite keep up with the Bombers in that game.
Right, exactly. And this is the same defense that held that team pointless in the second half and has just been an absolute wagon all season. And I think...
So, yeah, I mean, at some point this year, they were going to have a game where the defense did not play well. And they deserve the benefit of the doubt that they're going to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
But the offense, like, I just sit back there and look, and we've been very critical, on this offense all season, and I think for very good reason. Yes. But in that game, I saw a unit that showed some promise. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily means that they're going to be, light the world on fire the rest of the year or anything like that. But if that is a sign of what's to come, if they're kind of figuring out scheme-wise how to keep Cody from getting sacked 10 times a game.
Right.
And if Cody's able to move around a bit, and if his throw-in's getting back under him, that's a unit that can suddenly do something. And that is suddenly, if that offense can suddenly do something, maybe not necessarily single-handedly win them a bunch of football games, but play complementary football and allow them to compete and be in every single game, there's nothing that suggests to me this team can't make some noise in November.
And the receiving core is suddenly catching up to the quality that they have at running back.
Yeah.
Between Morrow and Hickson, I think it's undisputed. They have
the best one. They might have the best 1-2 running combo in the league. Yeah.
Yes, that has just been chronically underutilized. But now that Kyron Moore's back, and you can just tell that Cody has more faith in Kyron Moore and Shaq Evans than he does in Duke Williams.
I think so. Yeah.
Like
I don't think it's a complete coincidence that they've gotten a little better without Duke in the lineup.
Yes. Yeah. I know Cody and Duke had some good deep throws and some good chemistry late last season, but it's just the trust he has in Moore and Evans is just, you need that as a quarterback. And again, I am in no way speaking from personal experience, but you watch football, quarterbacks have guys, and they have guys they can count on, and they always will. And it's like Cody's got his guys back. And I also think that he just feels better.
Oh, no doubt.
That knee, I mean, 33 rushing yards for Cody on 7 attempts. And this is a Cody that knew the Bombers were coming every down. Mm-hmm. Because that offensive line was beat up. Like, it's bad when the head coach tells TSN before the game.
Oh yeah, if our offensive line is worse than usual, we're pulling Cody Fajardo.
Yes.
But they had essentially, they saw the writing on the wall in this game and said, okay, we understandably, if you guys can't hold up to any degree, we're not subjecting Cody to this. Which exactly. And I will give Craig a ton of credit even for thinking it, let alone saying it. Because a lot of coaches wouldn't have. A lot of coaches would have tried to gut it out and said, we got to win this game, and you're just going to have to get killed back there. But right. Craig had the wherewithal to read the room and say, okay, if this is going sideways in a hurry because the offensive line can't hold it all right now, sorry, Jake, you're taking a beating today.
Yeah. Imagine that. So you're Jake Dolegala.
You fly in that morning. You probably didn't practice all week. And now you're just going to come in and get...
You know what? You probably spent your Friday on a golf course or something with some buddies, like having a good time, kicking back, relaxing. And then first thing in the morning, you get a call from the team president. Meet me at the stadium now. We're going in my truck.
Well, he was the one that got on a plane.
Right.
Because they needed the backup quarterback, they got him on a plane. And I mean, it's not easy to fly from Regina to Winnipeg, especially last minute. So be it.
Right.
So, yeah. So that... I honestly give Craig a lot of credit. I don't know if he necessarily had to say it out loud, but I'm glad he had the thought at least, because I think a lot of coaches wouldn't have in that spot. They would have, because they can't. I think a lot of coaches sometimes can't see through the big picture of an entire season versus one game. But Craig saw the big picture in here and said, I can't let Cody take 12 sacks today and potentially end our season right now if he gets hurt.
Well, and especially too, because with the big picture. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it off the top, it's becoming evidently clear that as I continue to Fraser curse all these teams, that the Riders, pending some lunacy of a collapse and Hamilton or Ottawa suddenly becoming the second coming of the Blue Bombers, they're probably going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the number's not 100% right now, but it's pretty dang high that they are going to at least get the Eastern crossover.
Right, and depending what happens with BC is plummeting without Nathan Rourke. Like, they're just falling right off the map. And it'll be interesting to see with Vernon Adams now starting this week. But you still have a BC team that is falling like a rock. That I think of the classic Simpsons line where they're on a Japanese game show and the entire crowd is yelling, "Plummet, plummet, plummet." That's what I think has happened to the BC Lions. So
who for some reason are still 4th in the CFL.ca power rankings, but anyway.
Oh, that's well.
They were 6th on 3 down, just for the record.
Yes, because we actually watched the games.
Yeah.
Did I say that out loud?
Well, I mean, we at least tweet through the second half of games.
Oh, it's such a spicy dig that so many people won't get, but I enjoy it. So, yeah, this is, and I'm glad that Craig saw, like, I think maybe he takes a different approach if it's like, you got to win to stay alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's different if it's week 20 and they absolutely need to win to stay alive. Sure, that's different, but
right, and I'm sure that locker room does too, right? But you're right. It's not often you're sitting here after a 34-point loss going, I think that's good for them. But
yeah,
I like, it was dumb. Like, what the reason they lost was dumb, and losing in this fashion might have been better than another close loss, back to back. It is a damn shame that
it happened. Like, I feel like had that not happened, we might have seen a classic football game.
Oh, 100%. Like, the way that they played Winnipeg in the Labor Day Classic, like, great. Like, the offense looked great. And then those defenses going back and forth. I always feel like we were robbed of a classic football game. Now, as a Bomber fan who won at least 2 bottles of liquor based on this, I'm not going to lie. I'm always happy to see W's in the win column. But I'm more happy that everybody got out of there. Nobody got severely hurt despite the circumstances and the way a body reacts when everything's coming out all at once. But And yeah, like you said, kudos to Craig for seeing the big picture, seeing that they didn't need to gut out a win in a hostile environment while their own bodies were failing on them. So I don't see, like, this kind of has vibes and from people we've spoken to in the organization that maybe you're going to see a little bounce in their step. You're probably going to have some laughs at practice this week. You're going to see a relaxed, confident team that's been able to, hang with the Death Star at times throughout this season, right? And they're going into a stretch where you win on Friday night, Edmonton has officially been Fraser cursed. And then they can trade Sergio back to Winnipeg. And then all will be right in the world again, right? So you can officially eliminate Edmonton on Friday night. You get a bye week. And then you just got to hope for the continued implosion of both Ottawa and Hamilton. So it was chaos. It was dumb. It's not something I can ever remember seeing in pro sports in my entire life.
Not to that degree. Like, we've heard of, players here or there, but not not an entire team essentially wiped out by something like that. No.
Right. And on such, like, on zero notice too. Like, it was just...
Actually, I forget the year, but I remember there was the infamous Ottawa Senators Toronto Maple Leafs flu game many a year ago. The Sens were just completely devastated by the flu.
Right.
Like, they only had a handful of players for this game. I think they hung in for a while. Like, that game was a thing. I remember that one.
Right. They only had like 9 forwards and like 5D and managed to keep it close with the Leafs. Like, but even like, and I say this as somebody who's curled most of my life. Sometimes you're better when you're a little hungover. One of the best games I've ever played was in the Saskatoon men's Bonspiel to get us into the Pizza Hut E-event final and win some free pizza. Was after, like, you remember that game and how, like, we were both hung tits. Like, we were just hung.
Yep.
And I curled lights out. So, sometimes you play your best when you're not feeling so hot.
Yeah. Well, and I think for me, too, the other thing that sort of gives me optimism from that game a little bit was I think we saw Craig Dickinson and Jason Maas bounce back from, sort of a poor performance in the Labor Day Classic from them.
Yeah.
And I was especially very impressed by, sort of the decisions by Craig Dickinson, obviously besides the Cody thing. I mean, he went for it on third down 3 times in the second quarter. 2 of them they got. 1 of them they should have got, but they overthunk it a little bit. But regardless, and the execution wasn't quite there. But the process behind everything, which as I talk about a lot, was there. The decision-making was solid. The right decisions were made in basically every scenario. He went. I know there was a punt out of their own end zone late in the third quarter, I believe, where some people were questioning why they didn't take the knee. Number 1, Craig Dickinson never takes the knee. And number 2,
which I love.
When your team is scoring at will, the team you're playing is scoring at will, you do not give them 2 points.
No.
I mean, there was a 95% chance the Bombers were coming back to score anyway, so you're not making that a 5 or 9 point decision. Sorry. So he was actually 100% right to punt.
And I can't tell you where I heard this, and I can't even tell you what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard something this week through the grapevine that I don't hate the decision to pass as much as I used to. I
mean,
can't
it
tell
depends
you
on the pass itself, but yeah.
Right. But I can't tell you from who. I can't tell you why. I can just tell you that there was some logic there that makes me step back a little from what I said. Just a bit. On that when they should have run the ball. So I feel like I'd be breaking some sources, breaking some trust if I explained, but conversations I've had this week, I took a step back.
Yeah.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay. I don't know if I can be convinced on that one. You're talking about last week, right?
I am talking about last week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can handle a pass in certain scenarios, but not the pass that was actually thrown.
Something else was called. The wrong read was made.